Friday, April 9th, uh, Titan and a giant in hip hop, DMX, passed away after a long struggle with his own personal demons and struggling over the past couple of days with multiple heart attacks and a coma. It's a tough situation, but we wanted to just not dwell on his end, but to take a couple moments to talk about his life and his career and what he meant to us as fans of hip hop. So, Sudge, if you want to just start us off, man, and just talk about our man X, the dog.
X, man. Yo, I remember DMX was really the epitome of to me, the post Biggie rap scene and the hype and interest around rap music becoming just more and more popular and just having a lot of fun, with the genre. I remember being, 6, 7 years old and just singing all of DMX's hits. Like it, he was such a hype force. I remember my brother getting the album Flesh of My Flesh and Blood of My Blood and being so
Yeah.
like taken aback because here's a dude drenched in blood. He was in great shape, and just like looking fierce. And I remember thinking like, whoa, like this dude is edgy, he's cool. And then just singing his hits, whether it was, um X gonna give it to you, singing Ruff Ryder anthem, and just like with my schoolmates just running around singing his hits, watching movies like Romeo Must Die and Cradle to the Grave, and just seeing his impact from, just a movie standpoint and just having fun with him as an entertainer. Um, and him just being such a unique voice, him having such a unique style that wasn't really like anyone else. And I don't think anybody's gonna say, "Oh, he was the greatest lyricist," or "the greatest this," or "the greatest that." But he was an artist that was just entertaining and engaging, and you felt his impact. You felt his spirit, his soul from his music, and that was just something that I could really never forget.
Yeah, yeah. X for sure is, you can't say it about so many artists, but DMX is a one of one. There is no other DMX. He
None.
would take these crazy, like loud, bombastic beats that would like eat up any other rapper, and he would just like dominate on them. And looking back on his career, I think that a lot of kids that are younger than ourselves, let's say 2021 or younger, they're going to look at DMX and they're going to see the hits and probably think that like, oh yeah, he was pretty popular. He had, some good hits, but DMX was a force in the
Yes.
music industry. We're talking about a man that went platinum twice in the same year and went platinum 3 times over the course of 18 months. His first 5 albums all went number one. So there's people that will argue that DMX at one point was one of the biggest rappers in the game.
Yeah.
I will argue that DMX at one point was the biggest rapper in the game. Bigger than Jay, bigger than Nas, bigger than anybody you want to bring up. DMX was, in terms of sales and in terms of just sheer his amount of fans that he could pull together, was the biggest rapper in the world. And I think both of us can say this as kids growing up in New York. DMX and songs like Ruff Ryders Anthem flipped New York on its head. Like there's
Yeah.
no, like it's almost like you had to be there to understand like what that song and what DMX meant to the entire state of New York. Like it's almost incomprehensible. And you talked about it earlier. Like he has one of, I would even argue, you could say he had possibly the greatest voice just pure, straight up voice in hip hop. He has iconic bars, iconic ad libs. Like everybody knows, like the what? Everybody knows the, you know, what y'all really want. Like everybody knows like all of DMX's iconic songs, ad libs. You hear that little for the little lighter clicks for a Ruff
Yeah.
Ryders anthem. Like you don't even have to hear the beat. Like you know exactly what's about to happen. His bars a lot of times were simple. He could rhyme cat with bat, but it would be some of the hardest bars like you ever
Yeah.
heard in your whole life. And like he had this, outside of just his voice and just hard hitting bars, he had this great juxtaposition between darkness and light. And he was constantly, whether it was personally or actually on his albums and in his music, he was constantly fighting his demons and his darkness, and also intermixing his desire to be closer to God and his religion, like on the same song and sometimes within the same bar. Like DMX he would talk about killing and robbing a dude, and then he would pray for him, and then he would bark like within the span of like 6 bars. Like so it was like, listen to a DMX song is almost like an experience like no other, you know. And I always appreciated how he was always very transparent. Like he's one of the most transparent rappers in rap history in terms of his honesty about what he was going through, and his honesty about what he struggled with in his mind, and actually putting that on music and making that compelling. Like he was, like we said earlier, he is a one of one. There is never going to be another DMX. He wasn't perfect. He had his demons, he had his struggles, but ultimately he is one of the most unique and impactful artists in hip hop history. So I just want to take, you know, a second to appreciate him in a couple different ways. What's your favorite DMX song?
Oh, hands down, I knew this. X Gonna Give It to You. X going, yo, bro. I loved X Gonna Give It to You because it was one of those songs that I enjoyed as a kid, and then as I got older, it just got better. And then so much so to the point that when I was an undergrad, in my fraternity organization, we would do performances. And X Gonna Give It to You was a song that I picked every time we wanted to like really just get the crowd engaged, get the crowd hyped. It's a song that everybody knew, everybody was familiar with, and they knew. And that introduction, especially if you listen to like the extended version of the song, it takes like maybe a solid 45 seconds to a minute until he gets into the first verse, and you're just like, you know, like I remember pacing stage and being like, yeah, I'm about to see this performance. You're gonna see me do my thing and see us do our thing. And just that it would always just get me hyped, and it would always just get me going. And it was he was just a force to be reckoned with, like you said, and like I said, with his voice. Any simple thing he said just cut you, you know, like you felt it just penetrated somewhere in your mind and in your heart, and you just really feel him, you know. And I'm going to use present tense because his music and his art is still out today, and you can still experience it. And so that was definitely my favorite song. And yeah, hands down, that I just love that vibe. And I think it was also a part of the soundtrack for Cradle to the Grave, which was a really fun action movie for my 11-year-old self. With Jet Li, you know, kicking butt. It's like that's everything I wanted to see. My favorite rappers in Tim's stomping out bad guys. You know?
The New York Dream, definitely, for sure. It's gotta be What's My Name for me, man. Like that's just those pianos coming in, like it just sounds so menacing. And then you got D on the track, you know, you think it's a game, you think it's an effing game, and then, like you just gotta like your muscle just automatically like tense up, and like you just start like bobbing your head. And then like the chorus is ill, like you like just watching his videos, like he's in that like gladiator stadium, and you got the dog growling and foaming at the mouth, and he was just like a different kind of dude. And like we talked about it earlier, and I was talking about it with my wife yesterday, and it was like he could say some things sometimes that like any other rapper would say, and it would sound whack. But when DMX said it, like it just sounded like hard. Like on What's My Name, at one point he literally says like, "I'm not a nice person." It's just like like if any other rapper would have said that, it wouldn't work. But because
Yeah.
it's DMX, like he could literally say whatever he wanted on a track, and it would it's fireworks. It's literal fireworks, man. So, outside of the music though, unfortunately it came as a result of his passing, but it is comforting to see all of these people that had a relationship with him. And he has this this kind of everyman appeal in a way, because
Yeah.
you're seeing all of these people that have these pictures with him. You see people like that taking pictures with him in like a gas station or like in a convenience store, or like they will be rolling past him and they would like play his music out of the windows of a car, and he would just be like vibing and dancing to it with them and rapping along, like. And he
Yeah.
has just this influence as far as where he's touching so many different people. So it's incredibly sad to see, how it all ended. But, for anybody listening or anybody watching, I just hope we take a couple, weeks to celebrate one of the most iconic artists in hip hop history, man, because he definitely deserved it. And I'm glad that he got to get his flowers. I'm glad that he was able to do the verses with Snoop Dogg and
Yeah.
actually have another iconic artist celebrate their influence and celebrate their careers together. It was good to see him, he had gained some weight. It looked like he was healthy. It was good to see him in that state. And, before, all of this happened. But, I'll miss D, man. I'll miss the dog. There's never gonna be another him.
Yeah. Bottom line. And you said it best. Just continue to remember his legacy, continue to remember the fact that, and just be mindful of the fact that we have a lot of brothers and sisters out here who are dealing with substance abuse, who
Yeah.
can't get past that demon, and they can't get that monkey off their back. And our hearts and our prayers go out to them. And it doesn't matter how many times you get off the wagon, just fight tooth and nail to get back on it and seek help, seek the resources that you need. Let's continue to abolish the stigmatization of drug abuse and just give people the support and help that they need to get back on the right track. And understand that people are not going to be perfect. They're going to fall, but at least give them the resources and tools and love and support that they need to know that there's somebody there for them. And not just put them in a state of isolation where all they can do is fall back on substance abuse. So yeah, that's my hope and that's my prayer. And just let's just take a moment to remember X.